about. Now remember, all of Wayman Mitchell's hundreds of churches are run from his headquarters in Prescott, Arizona. So that's where we went for some answers. Mitchell's disciples ordered our photographer to leave, but our hidden camera was still inside.
You're not interested in news, man. Out. You're not interested in news. Out.
Could you take your hand off? Mitchell had no idea what we wanted to ask him, but apparently didn't care. Just like church members who asked about money, we were escorted to the door. We wanted a quick interview with him about what's going on in Boston. Our investigation found church members here at home are asking questions about money too, questions that are causing some to become ex-members. All members put cash in the church collection plate and rarely keep track of the total. But checks written for tithes are accounted for, both in the family's check ledgers and supposedly in church statements.
Where is that money?
But our investigation found the numbers don't always match.
These are the checks we gave for 1989.
Ed and Alice DaCosta know they tithed hundreds of dollars more to the Cape's Victory Chapel than church statements acknowledge. And the same for this ex-Victory Chapel couple. They say they'll be harassed by the church if their faces are shown. But they found a money gap too. And so, they told us, did their friends.
There was at least a half dozen people that said that, you know, they had given more than what their statement had said.
They're fleecing the flock. And that's what they're doing.
What are you?
We're the flock.
Why are you not willing to disclose this?
The Evangelical Association of New England represents 1,200 churches, not Wayman Mitchell's. Officials there recommend independent audits. And they say the question, what's happening with the money, should not be a tough one.
If I have a problem answering that question, I think you would have, some questions for me as to what am I hiding.
You don't want to respond at all.
We tried to ask Victory Chapel's pastor, Paul Campo, why Mitchell's churches do not have independent audits, and about charges of financial impropriety.
The money that you collect, where does that go? You're laughing. There are some other questions that he hung up.
Back in Arizona, where it all began, Dave Diver, his $60,000 unaccounted for, now ruefully regrets what he helped create.
And I'd like to apologize to people in Massachusetts.
Because?
Because I helped start it.
Former church members, both in Massachusetts and in other states, related exactly the same financial experiences to us, but they were afraid to talk about them on camera. They said current church members would make their lives miserable if they did. Margie.
And the current church member is pretty reluctant to talk to you, too.
Yes, absolutely. But it's funny, it's interesting, one of the people who turned us down did send us a fax today, and she said that she was disgusted with our story, and she said that the church does work hard to help people. Now, that's true. People who need help do go to the church with their problems, but some people say they just exchange those old problems for new ones. Now, let me say that tomorrow we will follow the money trail even farther, and insiders will reveal where the money does not go.
Okay, thanks very much, Hank. What happens when the power of faith is focused on fundraising? Tonight we continue the News 7 investigators' exclusive story of an international network of churches that has caused unhappiness and fear for many Cape Cod families. Hank Philippi Ryan continues her investigation by following the money trail from the Cape all the way to Arizona.
Margie, our story shows what can happen when the road to spiritual salvation takes a wrong turn and leads instead to blind faith. We began looking at Potter's House and Victory Chapel churches on the Cape and found that they and hundreds of others are run by a church headquarters thousands of miles away. The movement is growing right now here in Massachusetts. You may already have seen some church members working to make it grow even faster.
God wants you to be saved!
You may call this intriguing, or street theater, or simply annoying. But what the Victory Chapel churches call it is outreach. Their goal is new members, and street preaching is one way they try to get them. If you haven't been reached out to on the streets, remember the haunted house on the Cape that grabbed so much attention for its graphic abortion scene? That was Victory Chapel outreach too. On the surface, this group appears similar to other born-again fundamentalist churches. But once inside, ex-members tell us, obligations mount. Compulsory attendance, enforced recruitment, and demands for tithing, donation of 10% of everything you earn.
It's a money-making machine. It's based on money. Its whole goal is money. any way they can bring in money, they manipulate people to do so.
On his family.
For years, this man was an assistant pastor at Cape Cod's Victory Chapel. He revealed how the machine is fueled, in the words of his former boss.
I've heard him say, if you don't tithe, you're going to hell.
You've heard him say what?
If you don't tithe, you're going to hell.
With that as incentive, the church machine becomes extremely well-oiled.
People are tithing on their Social Security checks. People are tithing on their welfare checks. People are tithing on their food stamps.
You believe that there is a heaven and a hell, right? And you want to please God, and people use this willingness to please God to get what they want.
Here's how the machine works. Remember we said the mother church is in Prescott, Arizona, headed by Pastor Wayman Mitchell. It's the apex of a pyramid. Mitchell started more churches, and those pastors started more churches, and those pastors started more churches. The church says now there are more than 700 of them. Now the money. Each baby church must give 10% to its parent, ending in a windfall for the Prescott headquarters. And the more new churches, the richer it gets at the top. How much money winds up in Prescott? Well, churches are all private and tax exempt, required to report to no one. But in Arizona, a quirky law requires yearly church balance sheets. Our investigation reveals the Mitchell Church balance sheet quadrupled over the past years. But the problem is that's hardly a clear picture.
They're not checked up.
No.
They could really file whatever they wanted.
Absolutely.
Church members are told the money goes for more outreach. One disciple took these home videos of a church-financed crusade in India. And money is also supposed to go to plant baby churches. But the same disciple that took these pictures says that's not how it really works.
Churches raise funds for a minister that is just planted in another city. And I knew those ministers in the other cities, and I knew they weren't getting the money. The congregation would give thousands and thousands of dollars, and that individual would never see that money.
And this former insider at Cape Cod's Victory Chapel described exactly the same thing happening at his church.
We would pull offerings, $10,000, maybe $12,000 in for sending a church overseas, and I'd say maybe only 10 to 15% was used for that.
What was the rest used for?
Oh, buying new equipment, putting carpet in the church. It's basically drawing money from the people and lying to them.
So you're saying that money was raised for one purpose and used for something else?
Exactly.
As we showed you yesterday, our attempts to discuss finances with church officials were rebuffed at every level.
You're not interested in news, man. Out. You're not interested in news. Out.
I'm Hank Philippi Ryan from Channel 7.
I said you can't take pitches.
There are some other questions that he hung up.
God holds them accountable, but also people who give money have an obligation.
Rick Ross works to encourage church members to question church authority.
It amounts to nothing more than spiritual blackmail or a type of extortion. And for a church to be involved in that type of behavior is reprehensible.
Wayman Mitchell, remember the leader of the church worldwide, mentioned Rick Ross in a recent sermon. We were there with a hidden camera.
And the little faggot Rick Ross is cool. We survived all of him and will again. Isn't that right?
As new recruits go in the church doors, some of the disillusioned find their way out. They realize the search to be spiritually strong has made them something else.
Do you consider yourself a victim?
Yeah, I made an investment, a financial investment, but instead of a compassionate Jesus, we ended up with a Jesus with a machine gun.
Now remember, we said the pastors have authority in the church over members' lives and over their money. And how do pastors obtain their place in the pyramid? Our investigation found it doesn't take formal religious schooling. New pastors are chosen by current pastors and then personally ordained by the sole power of Wayman Mitchell. Margie?
Unbelievable. Now, I know the church members wouldn't go on camera, current church members. How about the church itself? Any response to all this?
Well, not to me, but we're told that the church congregations were told about our stories from the pulpit as soon as they were made public. They were told Channel 7 is serving the devil, and our stories are proof that the devil is angry about the church's good works. Now, theoretically, the people in the churches wouldn't have seen our stories since they're taught that television is unacceptable.